I remember the very first time I heard Donny Hathaway's voice. It was on a vinyl record that had been sitting for decades in a friend's attic, and I can still recall how, from the very first notes, his vocals seemed to flow like a warm current through the room. It felt intimate, filled with genuine emotion and a sense that he was singing directly to me. And I think that's part of his enduring magic. Donny had an almost otherworldly gift for making every listener feel personally seen and understood. Yet behind that gift, there was a man wrestling with more than just the everyday woes of life. He faced a monumental battle with mental illness that challenged his every step and ultimately claimed his life. Today we're going to step back in time to honor Donny Hathaway. His rise to soul stardom, his collaborations that made music history, and the heartbreaking struggles that led him down a tragically short path. Through his inspiring voice and his painful journey, we might catch a glimpse of the beautiful yet fragile humanity that resonates with so many fans to this very day. Growing up in mid-century America, Donny Hathaway was born on October 1st, 1945 in Chicago, Illinois. Not long after his birth, he went to live with his grandmother in St. Louis, and she quickly became one of his most important figures, someone who introduced him to gospel music and to the passionate fervor of church singing. In the small, warm confines of that church, he discovered not just a place to sing, but a way to channel his deepest feelings. Legend has it that even as a toddler, he would hum along to gospel songs at home, eyes wide with wonder, as he tried to imitate the heartfelt vocals he heard around him. His grandmother was a gospel singer herself, and her unwavering faith in Donny's talent fueled him to chase ever higher goals. He'd sit at the piano for hours on end, figuring out chords, humming melodies, and, in his own way, letting music become the language of his soul. In those early childhood years, Donny learned discipline from his grandmother. He learned that a gift is worthless if you don't invest the time to nurture it. That sense of devotion to his craft would stay with him throughout his life. He became known around his neighborhood as a boy with extraordinary promise, someone who could pick out complex harmonies by ear and adapt them into a brand new arrangement. Growing up African American in the 1940s and 50s brought its own set of social and economic challenges, but Donny took that adversity and seemed to transform it into a powerful creative force. He learned empathy from a young age, watching people struggle and survive in tough environments. This compassion would later shape the themes of love, unity, and emotional rawness in the songs he wrote and performed. One turning point came when he received a scholarship to Howard University, a historically black college in Washington, D.C. It was there that he seriously developed his music theory knowledge and got to refine his piano skills under a more formal training regimen. At Howard, Donny met classmates who would eventually become lifelong collaborators, or at least remain close in spirit. Among them was a young, gifted singer named Roberta Flack, someone who would occupy a profound place in his personal and professional life. At Howard, Donny wasn't just a star student. He was the guy other students would seek out for guidance when they hit a snag in their compositions. His practice rooms were rarely empty. You'd always hear a new melody, a unique improvisation of a hymn, or a snippet of something that would later become a beloved song. Even in those student days, Donny's dedication sometimes crossed the line into obsessive territory. He'd forego meals, stay in practice rooms overnight, and prioritize music above all else. Friends recall that he had a seriousness to him that was uncommon, a kind of pursuit of perfection that seemed part gift, part burden. But if you heard him play piano or sing even a single verse, you knew immediately that all that effort was translating into something extraordinary. That intensity was forging an artist who could change people's lives with a single phrase. By the mid-1960s, Donny felt the professional world calling. He left Howard before completing his degree because the music industry had already caught a whiff of his potential. He began working first as a songwriter and session musician, collaborating with established performers, and developing a network in the music scene. There was a certain humility about him, but also an unshakable self-belief. He knew deep down that he had something unique to offer. With his blend of classical knowledge, gospel background, and a soulful resonance, he carved out a style that was both elegantly complex and immediately accessible. Donny's solo career truly ignited around 1969 and 1970 when he signed with Atlantic Records. One of his early breakout tracks was The Ghetto Part. It combined a jazzy groove with social awareness. And then came This Christmas, now a holiday standard that's heard in countless households every December. Yet it was a song for you, recorded in 1971, that became a spiritual marker in his career. The composition, written by Leon Russell, was transfigured by Donny's interpretation into a raw, introspective anthem. He performed it with a vulnerability that was both excruciatingly honest and supremely uplifting. Music critics hailed him as a major new force in soul, bridging influences from jazz, gospel, R&B, and pop in a way that felt cohesive and distinctly his own. But if there's one artistic collaboration that truly defined Donny Hathaway's presence in the cultural landscape, it was his partnership with Roberta Flack. By the early 70s, they had developed a chemistry that critics and fans found nothing short of magical. Their album, Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway, 1972, included the smash hit Where Is the Love, a song that soared up the charts and won the 1973 Grammy Award for Best Pop Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocal. The interplay of their voices was gentle and smooth, yet powerful. People would see them on stage, exchanging glances as if they were finishing each other's sentences. Interviews from that era show how much warmth and admiration they shared, always praising each other's artistry. For the African American community and beyond, their partnership was a beacon of inspiration, a testament that Black artists could claim space on mainstream charts while preserving their distinct musical heritage. Media attention turned intense around 1972 and 1973. Donny was in high demand for concerts, TV appearances, and recording sessions. Despite the swirl of public adoration, there were also unkind rumors that he was prone to nervousness, sometimes missing shows due to unexplained ailments. Most people chalked it up to stage fright or exhaustion. After all, the 70s were a demanding time for artists. Pressure from record labels, constant travel, cutthroat competition for chart positions. No one immediately suspected something deeper was going wrong in Donny's mental world. During those peak career years, he was also recognized for his incredible arrangement and production skills. He worked with many up-and-coming artists, nurturing their sound and encouraging them to experiment with gospel and jazz flavors. He had a reputation for being patient and thoughtful in the studio, and his kindness toward colleagues helped him maintain strong relationships. But not everyone understood that beneath his serene exterior, Donny was wrestling with disturbing auditory hallucinations. Voices he claimed would sometimes tell him to hurt himself or others. Paranoid schizophrenia, as it would later be officially diagnosed, is a cruel illness that can twist reality and leave a person feeling isolated and terrified. By the mid-1970s, Donny's mental health struggles became more pronounced. He began to fear that people were spying on him, bugging the phones, and planning to harm him. He confided in a few friends that these voices wouldn't go away and that they demanded compliance in chilling ways. Treatment options at the time were less advanced than they are now, and the stigma was even greater. Donny tried different medications, which often came with side effects that made him drowsy, overweight, or robbed him of the sharp mental focus he needed to compose and perform. He hated that. Family members recall him being torn between the need to maintain some balance in his mind and the fear of losing the creative spark that made his music so special. Publicly, Donny's career faced a downturn. He canceled performances on short notice, sometimes walked out of recording sessions in a panic, and withdrew into long spells of reclusion. The once unstoppable energy behind The Ghetto and A Song for You seemed to retreat into a quieter space where Donny was simply trying to hold himself together. Roberta Flack and others tried to help. She once described their recording sessions as a delicate dance, never knowing whether Donny would show up feeling confident or arrive in a state of anxiety and suspicion. Nonetheless, whenever he did show up and felt stable enough to sing, that magical brilliance was still there. You can hear it, for instance, in late career recordings like You Are My Heaven, which came out after some of his personal struggles were already well known in the music community. Beyond music, Donny's personal life revolved around his wife, Eulaula, and their children. By all accounts, he adored his family and found solace in fatherhood, although episodes of severe paranoia sometimes made him distant. Colleagues have shared stories of him lighting up whenever his kids visited the studio, greeting them with bear hugs and proud smiles. Those glimpses of normal family life meant everything to him, moments of real love that provided at least some buffer against the haunting voices in his head. But the older he got, the more relentless those voices became. He tried therapy, but the technology and understanding of mental health in the 1970s were limited. The balancing act between fatherhood, artistry, and mental illness was becoming too heavy a weight to carry. Around 1977, some fans noticed a slight resurgence. Donny and Roberta released The Closer I Get to You, which soared in popularity. His vocals on that track were delicate and heartfelt, capturing all the warmth his fans remembered from his earlier work. It felt like a glimmer of hope. Maybe he was finding a way to live with his illness and still produce the music that spoke so powerfully to the human condition. For a brief time, it seemed as though Donny was on the mend, well enough at least to share with the world the gift of his voice. But behind the scenes, his close friends knew it was a battle from day to day, with no guarantees of how he'd feel by tomorrow. Then came January 13th, 1979, a day that would shake the music world to its core. Donny Hathaway had checked into the Essex House Hotel in New York City. He was in town working on more collaborations with Roberta Flack, and there was excitement about new material they were putting together. But Roberta and the other producers quickly became alarmed. Donny behaved erratically during the sessions, speaking again of conspiracies and hearing voices that threatened to kill him. He left the session abruptly. Sometime later that evening, under still unclear circumstances, Donny either jumped or fell from his hotel room on the 15th floor. The official cause of death was ruled as suicide, though the exact nature of that final act remains a haunting mystery. Was it a moment of uncontrollable terror? Was it despair so great that he saw no other escape? We will never know with certainty. The news spread quickly across radio stations. In an era before social media, it was phone calls, newspapers, and TV that carried the heartbreak of the story. People who'd grown up with Donny's music, who had danced to The Ghetto, slow danced to A Song for You, or swayed lovingly to Where Is the Love, found it impossible to believe that a voice so full of life could be snuffed out in such a tragic way. Roberta Flack was devastated, left grappling with shock and grief. The black community at large lost one of its most promising, soulful interpreters, someone who had navigated the complexities of being a black artist in a racially turbulent era and had still managed to climb to extraordinary heights. In the days and weeks following his death, family members, fans, and fellow musicians offered tributes that revealed how deeply Donny was cherished. The emotional outpouring was immense, from quiet candlelight vigils to impromptu gatherings where people played his records and reminisced about the times they'd seen him live. Roberta Flack publicly expressed her sorrow and dedicated performances to Donny's memory. Perhaps the most poignant tribute was the wave of younger musicians who cited Donny as a major influence. Vocalists like Luther Vandross, Alicia Keys, and others would go on to mention Hathaway's phrasing, his emotional delivery, and his seamless blend of gospel tradition with pop accessibility as cornerstones of their own artistry. In the decades that followed, Donny Hathaway's legacy only grew stronger. While he never became a household name on the level of, say, Marvin Gaye or Stevie Wonder, connoisseurs of soul and R&B recognized him as one of the genre's purest voices. A Song for You continues to be covered by numerous artists across different genres, pop, jazz, even country, each trying to capture a fraction of the raw emotion Donny brought to it. New generations discover him through streaming services or through older relatives who remember dancing to his records. Critics who once placed him as a secondary figure in 70s soul have come to appreciate just how innovative and sensitive his approach was, acknowledging that some of his best work laid the groundwork for later neo-soul and jazz fusion trends. There's a tender story told by a longtime friend of Donny's who recounted visiting him in a hospital near the end of his life. Donny was in a psychiatric ward for a brief period of evaluation and medication adjustment. His friend walked into the room, expecting to see a broken spirit. Instead, Donny greeted him with that big, warm smile, one that had charmed audiences at concert halls around the country. Even in the hospital, he asked for a piano, apparently to show his friend a new idea for a song. The staff managed to wheel a keyboard in, and Donny proceeded to play a chord progression so beautiful, the friend reportedly had tears in his eyes. They spent an hour that day simply talking about chords, lyrics, and shared memories of childhood. Donny was upbeat and gentle, as if for that hour the illness had loosened its grip on him. The friend described this moment as a reminder of how big Donny's heart truly was, how his creativity shone through no matter how dark the environment. That same friend tearfully added that, within a few days, Donny was once again besieged by paranoia and hallucinations. It's heartbreaking to think about, but it's also a testament to the complexity of who Donny was. Those who worked with him in the studio mention that he had a near supernatural ear for harmony. He would detect the slightest off-key note or timing issue, yet he'd correct people kindly rather than belittle them. His sessions were known for feeling collaborative, not dominated by a single ego. He'd usher in a sense of family, offering compliments like, "That's it, that's the groove," or "Let's do it again and bring it closer to the heart." Musicians recall he often used phrases that pointed them back to their own emotional center, as though he believed the real power of music came from feeling it, not just playing it. This might be one of Donny's most enduring lessons, that true artistry demands a deep personal connection with the music and with the people who create it alongside you. He also had a habit of penning down lyrical ideas on random scraps of paper, receipts, napkins, the edges of newspapers. Some of these notes still survive, kept by family members or close friends as cherished mementos. Many are just sketches of verses or chorus lines, references to biblical passages, or little affirmations he wrote for himself like, "Lord, give me strength to do it better." They serve as an intimate window into the mind of a man who was at once deeply spiritual and relentlessly self-critical. It's rumored that there might be unreleased demos or tapes in some private collection, though none have been officially confirmed to exist. If they do, it's likely they contain more glimpses of that fragile intersection between Donny's brilliance and his heartbreak. Even to this day, fans gather online in forums and social media groups. They share stories about how Donny's music helped them navigate personal difficulties. Some talk about facing moments of depression, only to find solace in "Someday We'll All Be Free," a track that has become something of an anthem for resilience. Others talk about playing "For All We Know," another stunning example of Donny's capacity to infuse a cover song with soul-stirring intensity at weddings and funerals. The older Western fans often recall seeing him on television or hearing him on a late-night radio station back in the 70s, feeling that flicker of recognition that this wasn't just another pop star. This was a man who sang from the depths of his heart. Younger fans, meanwhile, often discover him through samples in modern hip-hop or R&B tracks, or by reading interviews with artists like Alicia Keys, who openly declared Donny Hathaway to be one of their greatest inspirations. In a conversation about Donny Hathaway, it's impossible to avoid the enduring question: could things have turned out differently if he'd received more effective medical treatment, or if the stigma around mental illness had been less severe back then? The 70s were not kind to people with conditions like schizophrenia. Often, the available therapies were harsh, side effects were brutal, and empathy in broader society was scarce. Even so, Donny managed to leave behind a body of work that continues to resonate with anyone who's ever felt deep love, heartbreak, or a yearning for spiritual comfort. His music reminds us that out of suffering can come great beauty, but also that suffering is not automatically redeemed by artistry. He was a real person with real fears and joys, and he happened to have an extraordinary gift that has outlived him. If you are an older listener, someone who remembers hearing Donny's songs on the radio back in the day, you may find yourself transported back to a time when those songs shaped your romantic hopes or helped you find solace in heartbreak. If you're younger and just discovering him, you might be amazed at how fresh and relevant his music still sounds, even decades after it was recorded. Those who perform in churches across America continue to find inspiration in his gospel-inflected style, and session musicians study his arrangements to learn how to blend piano chords into a textural cushion for a lead vocalist. When fans gather online to share memories, you'll often see comments from people recalling the day they learned of his passing, how a radio DJ broke the news, or how a local record shop sold out of his albums within hours of the announcement. The sense of loss was immense, but even greater was the sense of awe at how quickly he had achieved near-mythic status. Thank you for spending this time reflecting on the life, the heartbreak, and the astonishing musical legacy of Donny Hathaway. If you have memories of hearing him perform live, or if you want to share a personal connection you've had with one of his songs, I'd love to hear about it. Let's keep his spirit alive by remembering the compassion he offered, the emotions he stirred, and the songs that will forever carry his gentle yet powerful spirit. May we always honor his memory by embracing our own empathy and kindness, just as he once did for those around him.